which like Generation X, Generation X.
Oh, sorry, not the Spice Girls Pepsi commercial?
No.
Oh.
No.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Crystal.
And I'm Kelly.
Welcome back to our channel, Falling into 40,
Yes.
where we navigate that uncomfortable gap between 30 and 40.
So today our question is, what generation do I belong to?
Yeah, sometimes people don't know.
No.
So we're here to help you figure it out.
It's true.
And then tell you a little bit about what generation we belong to. Because we belong to the...
Millennials.
People have such an opinion on millennials.
It's true. We're
true.
highly criticized people.
We are. I think it's mostly by the boomers too.
Yeah.
The boomers think that, the boomers I mean by baby boomers, seem to think that the millennials do nothing but eat brunch all day
Avocado toast.
and spend money.
Yes.
When like, I don't have money
We
to
can't
spend
save
on
up. We
avocados.
don't know how to work hard. We want everything given to us on a silver platter.
Right?
Is it true? I don't know. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, we will tell you if it's true.
So what we're going to do on screen is put up a little description of each of the different generations. So
With the typical dates used to describe that generation. So what we found is that a generation is typically described by a 30-year gap in which you are born, you grow up, i.e. like come of age, enter into adulthood, and then, you know, get married and start to have your own kids. I think they kind of, like, researchers kind of determined that once you start having your own kids, your generation is like over.
It's over.
And
Well,
now it's time for the next
the
generation.
age period definition,
Yes.
defining your generation.
Yeah,
is
your
over.
life is not over. Well,
So, but things get a little bit tricky in terms of dates because it used to be that was a thing. The 30 years was from birth till children, and nowadays, you know, you might be 45 before you have kids. So the timelines get a little skewed.
yeah. So we
Rough dates.
We typically took the rough dates from Canadian data because we are Canadian. So we figured we'd stick to that as opposed to like taking the UK's you know version of a baby boomer to a millennial. It's a little bit different, and even so, they're only different by about a year, maybe.
There are technically 6 generations. They've only started them since 1900. So the first generation is called the greatest generation ever. And thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
You are.
They fought in World War I.
Yes.
So they are the greatest generation.
You
They know
are.
the value of hard
Thank you
work
for
more
your
than
service.
anyone. Unfortunately, most of them have left us.
Yes.
So can we be the greatest generation ever
Right.
again? The
Can
next
we?
one? No.
Can we? I had family, like I have long ago family from the greatest generation. So let's just carry it on.
Yeah. And then there's the silent generation, which lived through the Depression. And then is the boomers. So those people are typically in their 60s right now. If that's rough again.
My parents are boomers.
Yeah, technically my mom is as well.
Yeah.
Generation X, which like Generation X, Generation X.
Oh, sorry, not the Spice Girls Pepsi commercial?
No,
Oh.
no. So Generation X are currently in their 40s, roughly. Millennials, we have a really long definition.
We do.
So it's tricky because technically you could be 22 or you could be 37. So that's pretty tough because as 34-year-old, well, she's almost 34. We're definitely elder millennials.
Yes, we're definitely we're a different person than the 23-year-old millennial.
Yeah.
Like, we want to thank ILIZA for her Netflix special, her stand-up comedy, Elder Millennial, because it's one of the most relatable things we've ever watched.
Yes.
Because I used to think, oh my gosh, everyone always calls me a millennial, and they take all these like terrible attributes towards millennials, and I'm like, but I'm none of those things.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because I'm an elder millennial.
Elder millennials, yes.
Higher.
And then you've got the post millennials or Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Yeah. So those are kids born in the late 90s.
Late 90s, yeah. When we were just getting cool.
Yes.
The millennials were becoming cool when the Gen Zs were being born.
Exactly.
Okay. So just to touch a little bit on the other generations before we pop into our own. So the boomers are considered the largest demographic because all of those kids were born after the World War II.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, they didn't really have a whole lot to do.
So they needed to
just
repopulate the
had
earth, basically, is what
babies.
happened.
So the boomers are considered to be They had like peak levels of income in the workplace. They were very hardworking, but that also led to a lot of excessive consumerism. So baby boomers were kind of the epitome of, you know, like when you watch TV or you watch movies and, you know, they have that husband who's having his midlife crisis and he's like gonna dye his hair and buy a Porsche. And, you know, he needs a wife that's 20 years younger than him because he's all worried. He's all worried that he's too old. So, a couple of the big things that the boomers lived through was they had like Beatlemania and they had Woodstock. They grew up in a very different time where they had a lot of sexual experimentation. They had a lot of drug experimentation, while also living kind of under the guise of, they had all of the like cookie cutter television shows. So they grew up, like my mom grew up watching All in the Family, Happy Days, The Brady Bunch, which were all these shows that showed you like that a perfect family was like a wife and husband and a bunch of kids, and you had good jobs and you had a car.
It was that keeping up with the Joneses generation.
Yes, exactly.
And then the Generation X, who again are people roughly in their 40s right now. They're known as the latchkey generation. So they are a group of people whose moms were working, or maybe they're single parents. There's there's a high divorce rate when they were being born. So they're a highly independent group of people. They're the generation with the most entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They're very competitive, and they're considered to be quite materialistic, and like they seek status and brands and luxury. What else is there?
One of the funny things that I find between the boomers and the Gen X is that the boomers had all of this drug experimentation. They had Woodstock, they had sexual freedom, and then the Gen Xers grew up during the AIDS epidemic. So they were literally taught in sex ed, like, do not have sex, it can kill you. So it went from the boomers being like, sleep with everyone, peace, love, and the Gen Xers were like, don't do it.
That doesn't mean they didn't do it.
No glove, no love. Do you remember those commercials? Very vaguely, like when we were growing up, that were like, what if he says it spoils the mood? And she's all like, AIDS spoils the mood.
But what if he says it spoils the mood? AIDS spoils it more. No glove, no love.
Terrible.
I remember being like, who would actually say that to someone though? That's a little intense.
That's a mood killer right there. That conversation. So coming right after us, millennials, is Gen Z. So they're young right now. They're teenagers. They're in their early 20s. They're just getting out into the world. But the interesting thing about Gen Z is that they are people who did not live through 9/11.
No.
And they
haven't really had hardship. They haven't seen global disaster. They haven't really seen anything that had like a dramatic change in the world. They haven't really seen that yet.
But they are suffering the effects of the post-recession issue. So the 2008 crash, they are now a more realistic group of people than we are, which is interesting. They're considered to be quite hardworking, and they look at the world realistically because they are aware that they are facing a difficult financial life ahead of them. So they're going to get an education in order to get a good job. They're going to work really hard to keep that job. So that's cool for them. But they're also the generation that grew up entirely on their phones, on social media, on the internet.
On the computer,
so that's
they have a whole other life that we didn't know. Like millennials, we hit the last little burst of, we had a computer, but it was primarily used for researching school papers, and maybe you had MSN Messenger at the end there, maybe you had a MySpace page with some emo stuff on it back in the day, but even then that was so minimal, whereas kids today are like, if you don't have Snapchat, you don't exist.
And they're permanently plugged into their phones. Like they'll have them out with them, as we mentioned in our last video. They'll have them with them at the club nonstop, taking selfies. They're I don't know, they're tweeting, they're snapping, or whatever that's called. They're doing all of that. They live stream everything. They're a very connected group of people. They're also, interestingly, they're very ethically motivated. So they are, more so than millennials, they are the generation that wants to save the planet. They don't believe in the standard identity norms.
No, they
you know,
don't.
Gender
Yeah,
roles
they're
are
way
fluid.
more open-minded.
Yeah.
They're like, as much as the millennials were tolerant and open-minded, the Gen Zers are much more. They're way more open to everything and anything.
Yeah. Sadly, they do suffer more depression than other generations.
They are
though.
far more stressed.
Yeah, which
research shows.
I would say it's mostly because of those phones. So if your formative years, and let's say those are from like 12 to 18, that high school, that hard part of your life, if your formative years are living through the lens of social media, you A, portraying everything through that, and B, being critiqued nonstop by your peers and your imaginary peers.
Yes.
That's gotta be rough.
Like, honestly, there's that like meme that you see that goes around sometimes where it's like what I looked like when I was 10 versus what girls now look like when they're 10. So it's like me is like in like a plush like rainbow sweater with like track pants, and my mom cut my bangs.
fuzzy hair.
Meanwhile, girls today who are 10 are like wearing like cute little lace skirts and like a denim jacket over a cami.
They
with,
might
like,
even have
cowboy
highlights.
boots. They might even have and they've got like contour and like these girls that are like 10, 11 years old have like Anastasia Beverly Hills contour kits. I'm like, I'm sorry, pardon?
How do you afford that?
Your parents need to buy you different things. But like, I had like barrettes in my hair and like frilly socks, not like Birks and.
So we don't intend to bash any of the other generations, but you know, people bash millennials hard. So so let's go through what a millennial is categorized as.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah. So from the research that I gathered here, it says we are a globalist community, which is interesting. So our interests are not so much having the newest, nicest sports car, but seeing the world, experiencing the world, going to festivals. We're here for the experience. We're here for the ride.
Yes.
Our generation is the lazy one, right?
I say we say lazy because it's not lazy in a bad way though.
No.
Like, it's not lazy like I don't ever want to do anything. I just want to lay on the couch all day. It's lazy in terms of like we know how to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
So we want to take care of ourselves, like mind, body, spirit, as opposed to just being here on the planet to like work for the man.
We are here, or not we are here, but we are the generation that represents work-life balance. So we are, I think, the most in tune with mental health.
Oh yes.
That we want it, not to say that we all have it, but that we want it and we pursue that. So we don't believe that a 9-to-5 job is vital. We do believe that we need to work, but you know, flex hours are a good thing to go with.
It's like we know, like, we're here, you know, we work to live, but we're not here to live to work.
So other generations frown upon that.
They do. They think you should live to work.
So they think we're not ambitious, we don't have goals, and we live on our phones. But that's, I think that's a skewed outlook on us.
Very much so. So I think that the baby boomers, primarily the baby boomers as well, kind of get upset with millennials' like lack of priorities, even though that's not really true. I think it's just because millennials choose to do things a little bit later in life. So we choose to take care of ourselves first and like do the travel we want to do, have the life experiences we want to have, and then maybe we're getting married at like 40 and having kids at 42 or 43 or 44. Whereas the boomers, if you did not have kids,
and Gen X.
if you were not married with kids by the time you were like 22, 23, you were considered like late, like you were behind. And I think the other generations just view us as like a little bit selfish, because we're choosing to do those things later when we're ready, as opposed to before, because some archaic stereotype says we're supposed to do it then.
Exactly, and our generation is the one, like, you go back home and live with your parents, right? So most of us have done that at some point in our lives, just for financial reasons. And I think basically finances is sort of what rules all of these things. Every generation is ruled by how the money flows in. So the boomers were living in a time of economic prosperity. Gen X had the interest crisis, so the housing was challenging, and now we're suffering from the effects of the 2008 recession. So there's a portion of us that managed to get into the housing market before the recession hit. So there's this weird amount of people in their 30s who are fine, you know, who are financially stable, and then there's some that have to have multiple jobs and can't get in the market, and that's what the complaints in every article is that the housing market is unattainable, retirement is unattainable, you have to have multiple jobs. So this whole, like, basically anyone under the age of 30 is financially in a really terrible position. It's a tough world to grow up in right now. So what's interesting is that our generation has a shift to stereotypical gender roles. That's not discounting gender identity. That's a different ball of wax. Like we're a very accepting generation.
Oh yes.
You do you be who you need to be.
Millennials are so open-minded.
All good.
Yeah.
There's no judgment for any of that. But there's this return to, you know, there's the breadwinner and then the stay-at-home mom, and I think it's sort of it goes in line with our work-life balance motto, I suppose, of our generation, and that we want to live a whole life, not just do the cookie cutter things and you know, make money to have goods. Like, we want to live life, we want to travel the world, we want to have babies, we want to be home with them and enjoy them, and not go back to work after 6 weeks like they have to do in the States.
Right.
This baby. Go see daddy. Go get him. It was right on time. I was just talking about having babies. I get to stay home with this guy. Pardon that interruption.
Oh, the adorable babies.
So I think that's awesome that our generation basically wants to live a whole full life.
A whole full life.
That's pretty cool. Stop criticizing our love of avocado toast.
Avocado toast brings us joy.
It's true.
And if you have things in life that bring you joy, if you're not hurting yourself or others, why not?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Bring on the avocados.
Which is basically the point of this channel. You know? Pursue what will make you happy.
Yes.
Bring a little joy to the world.
Exactly.
So what generation do you belong to?
Yeah,
Are you a millennial like us?
Let us know in the comments below what generation you belong to.
Yes, and please let us know what is the most hated stereotype
about your generation
that you really hate.
Yes, that you're like, stop it. I am not this. I didn't like grunge. Who's Nirvana? I don't want to be known as MTV Generation. Like, tell us.
Yeah.
And like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications for all of our videos.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.